Farming in 7 Days to Die has long eluded even our most advanced 7 Days to Die player. So I welcome you today to our complete guide to farming in 7 Days to Die, where we'll take you from beginner to advanced underground farming. Stay tuned for your complete guide for farming in 7 Days to Die. Welcome, fellow survivors. This is Kruxn, and today we are talking farming. This is your complete guide to farming in 7 Days to Die. Most of you know I'm a big fan of farming, so I'm excited to share some of my findings with you guys, so you guys can be the ultimate farmers in 7 Days to Die, even better than most of your advanced 7 Days to Die player. So let's get right to it. Now, for any good 7 Days to Die player, one of the first things you probably start doing is planting your tree farm for that endless supply of wood for your structures, like my fancy wood structure over here. You need to have a wood supply, and usually that requires planting them so you have trees close to you, especially if you don't in a place where there aren't a lot of trees. So first thing you need to do is collect your seeds. Now, we're not going to get too detailed about this, but basically any tree that will give you a seed will give you at least one seed. But it has to be full grown, like some of our trees off in the distance here. It has to be full grown for it to give you 2 trees, and that means it'll have 1200 health. That's 1200 health, so when you start chopping it, you'll see the health of it. If it's not 1200, it's not going to give you 2 seeds. So when you're farming, make sure your trees are fully grown before you start harvesting them. That way you'll get 2 trees and you could increase the size of your farm versus just maintaining the size of it. Now, if you're not worried about increasing the size of it, go ahead and chop what you need and be done with it. But you will maximize the profit you get from it by waiting for them to be maximum size. Once you have your seeds, go ahead and start planting them. The basics are basically they could grow in any ground that any other plant could grow in. And we'll go over that a little bit more later, but we have ground here that we could plant. So we planted our first tree, we popped it in there. You can see the box that it creates. We're going to go over that in a little bit as well. That basically says you need at least 2 grow spaces. We're not going to go too much into the growing style of them at this time, but basically if you have structures above them, it could end up damaging your structures when it grows. But we could go over that in a future episode. But once you grow one, you can see I can't grow any other nearby. You need to grow it 4 spaces away. That means 3 spaces in between. So 1, 2, 3, that's your 3 in between, and then the 4th spot you could grow another one. And then so on and so forth. Another 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see I'm growing a nice row. It's 3 spaces in each one. Now, that's basically it. Those are your basics of growing tree. You're done. Now, it does take quite a while for them to grow. They do have multiple stages. You'll have like 300 health, 600 health, 900 health, and 1200 health till they're fully grown. So you want to wait till they're fully grown to get the maximum amount of wood out of them. After that, you can start getting creative. Like I said, there are stuff to be weary of, like growing, like building structures above trees you're growing. It will pop holes in your buildings a little bit, so just be wary of that. Plus it'll look stupid because you have trees like overlapping your buildings a little bit, so you do want to avoid that. But after that, you could kind of get creative, and we'll just go over this really quickly. Trees could pretty much grow as long as they have one space going straight up. Now, as you can see, they get thick, but they only require one space. So this tree is sitting on, there's some dirt within this little wood structure here, so you could grow it, even though it's butting up right against the building. So you could grow it there. All you need is one spot of dirt. Once again, here's a tree. This tree is planted at ground level, and it's growing up. And we'll kind of pop in here a little bit. You can see it's growing from the ground, coming all the way up, even though it's mostly surrounded by structure. Now, this one looks pretty nice because the pine trees grow pretty nice and doesn't get leaves until up to the top. So this one works. So you could have your little forest like that and mostly be covered. But all you need is one spot going all the way up for the tree to be able to grow. Similar, and then as far as their light requirements, is similar to the other plants, but we're going to go over that in a second. Once again, you just need that one spot of dirt. So you can see these look pretty funny because they're just sitting on one dirt, but you can see how thick they get. And same with your blue spruce over here. And those are your 3 trees you could grow in the game. Your blue spruce, your pine, and your maple. All of them just require one spot of dirt. Once again, you could grow them in any soil. They could grow any other plant. They don't need fertilization. They don't need tilled earth. They just need soil that they could grow in. So if you could plant them there, they will grow to full size. That's pretty much your basics to your tree farm. Just remember, trees could have to have 3 spaces in between them. So every 4th space you could plant them, and that does apply to even trees that are up in the air. It's basically just a vertical measurement here. So you can see this tree is right there. I can't plant one there because obviously it's there. And then 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th I could plant it. So even if you're putting them up in the air a little bit, it's all just a vertical line. You still need them, horizontally. They need to be 4 spaces apart. And that's your tree farm right there. So let's go on and start talking some of our other crops. Now, once you're a master of your tree farming, usually the next thing you're looking to do is get your your true farm going with your different crops. Now, first thing to know is what kind of area you should be looking to grow your stuff in. Pretty much you could grow crops in pretty much any soil you encounter in the game. And I kind of have it lined up here. So here's a good screenshot moment. Go ahead and snap that picture right there, because those are pretty much your primary sources of soil in the game that you're going to come across stuff. You could plant crops in all of them. We're going to get more into that because pretty much you don't want to plant most of them. But these are your different soils you come across in the game, so it's good to be kind of familiar with them. Some of them are going to contain resources you need, like your stone, your clay, your sand, your gravel. Those are all stuff that you're generally looking for in the game for your resources. Now, primarily, you want to focus on your forest ground, your plains ground, and your grassy ground. You can see, they're fertile because they're the only grounds in the game that naturally grow soil. Now, in the game, you can craft pretty much all these as well. So if you want to craft your grounds to grow, you have your burnt forest ground, your grassy ground, your plains ground. Craft all those. You could also, and it just requires 8 dirt to do so. Sod also requires 8 dirt and some plant fibers. What's nice about sod is that you could pick it up. So if you put it in a bad spot, you could pick it up like a frame. So it makes it really easy to do landscaping with sod, but you do have to wait for it to dry before you can start tilling it for your farm. But sod is amazing for doing landscape projects. So another quick demonstration over here, you can kind of get an idea of what all your different grounds look like in the game. You got your grassy ground, your snow, your plains, your stone, your forest ground, your destroyed stone, so that's like where your wastelands are. Then you have your clay. Yeah, that's your clay. You have your clay, and then you have your desert, gravel, sand, and then burnt forest. So those are kind of how they look in bulk. I mean, obviously only 3 of them are naturally going to grow stuff. You will find dead stuff and some grasses just generated on some of the other stuff. But generally, when you place the grounds, these 3 grounds, those are the ones that will grow stuff for you. So if you are doing some landscaping, but as far as your farm goes, only some of them can you till. So the first tool is your hoe here, and we'll go into this a little bit more, but just as far as getting familiar with your soil, you can only till your ground. So I couldn't do the snow, can't do the stone. I could do all the ground. So here's the forest. Here's the destroyed stone, can't do that. Clay, cannot do that. Your desert, can't do that. Gravel, can't do that. Sand, can't do that. And you could also do the burnt ground. So those are your 4 you could do. Your burnt ground, your grassy ground, your plains ground, and your forest ground. Those are what you want for farming. Those are the only things that are going to work. And then also your sod, after it dries, it's going to work for you as well. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to familiarize ourselves with some of the crops you could grow in 7 Days to Die. Now that you have the basics of your soils, we're going to just walk over and kind of introduce you into actual farming. And we're not going to go too much into collecting the seeds, but pretty much you can find them in the world, you can harvest them in the world, you can collect them off zombies, you can buy them from the trade, and so on and so forth. They're out there, go get them, go find them. But once you have them, you could start planting them in your dirt. Now, like before, we were talking about before, you could plant them in all of your grounds except for stone. Here's your stone right here. But you could plant them in all your ground, which seems fantastic. But you have to remember, they're not going to grow very big if you just plant them. You have to at least till the earth. And so once again, you can't till anything. We're trying to till any of this. We cannot till it. The only thing you could till is your burnt forest ground, your forest ground, or your plains ground and your grassy ground. That's where you could till. So that's where you want to plant them. But first you want to till your earth, because we'll jump right over here. because this is where we planted some directly into our grassy ground, or forest ground. No, probably grassy ground. Planted them directly into our grassy ground, and our results are as expected. We did not till the earth, so they do not produce a lot. So really quick, we have our mushrooms over here that produce 2. That seems good, but it takes 2 mushrooms to make a mushroom seed. So it only gives us back what we put in because we did not till the earth. Same with your yucca. It only gives us back 1. Corn, 1. Blueberry, 1. Aloe vera, 1. Potato, 1. I think I'm missing them. Potato, 1. Your cotton, 1. Your goldenrod flower, 1. Your chrysanthemum, 1. Your coffee beans, 1. And your hops flower, 1. It's only giving you back what you put into it. So you have to till the earth if you want to get a return on it. And you can see your mushrooms could grow on walls. No benefit there. We'll talk about mushrooms a little bit later. They are a unique plants. Excuse me, we're trying to farm here. Alright, we've dealt with that nasty zombie. We're going to run inside our structure here to go over some more advanced farming techniques as we talk about some of the basics as well. As you can see, we are indoors and we have some light sources, which we'll get more detailed about that as well. Because we did tell you, we are going to show you how to farm indoors as well as ultimately underground for some amazing true underground farming. But first, the basics. All the ground in here is tilled. That means we took out our hoe and we tilled the earth. So that's your basics for farming because that's going to give you the returns. So really quick, you could take this snapshot here. This is extremely useful, or write it down. But these are all your crops in the game. We didn't have them labeled outside, but we have them labeled inside here. So you get a good look of what they look like. Here we go. That's a better screenshot for it. Get a good look of what they look like. And then those are your basic yield. Those are your basic yield right there for when they're in tilled ground. So once again, off to the left, we have our mushrooms on the wall, which, like we said, it's only going to give you back a return. They have to be in tilled earth for them to give you a higher return. So on the walls, only 2, and that's what it took to create the seed in the first place. But once in tilled, your mushrooms will give you back 3. Now they are a unique one once again because they were giving you 2 before, so they increased by 1 to give you 3. Most of them are going to increase by 1. So your yucca's up to 2. Your corn is a unique one because it jumps up to 3. That's 2 additional yield by planting them in tilled earth. Your blueberries goes up to 2, aloe vera up to 2, your potatoes up to 2, your cotton also goes up to 3. They're very similar in that regard to corn. Your goldenrod also up to 2, chrysanthemum up to 2, coffee beans up to 2, and your hops flower up to 2. Now continuing this on, the next thing you do is you fertilize the earth. So once again, you need to use your hoe and have fertilizer. Now it's kind of harder to see where it's labeled, where your fertilizer is, but all of this area right here where we have these crops grown and the one in front of it, that's why we see this spot here, they are fertilized. So we'll give you your screenshot here of your yield for fertilized crops. So you could look ahead here of what we're about to talk about, but there's your fertilized earth. That increases your yield. So everything is pretty much doubled. There's a few exceptions, but so your hops go from 2 to 4, as well as coffee beans, chrysanthemum, goldenrod. Your cotton, it was 3, so it also gets 2 additional. So they're not truly doubling, they're just getting 2 additional. So your cotton was at 3, it goes up to 5. Potato got 2 more, aloe vera got 2 more, blueberries got 2 more, bringing them all up to 4. Corn, same with cotton, went up 2 more. It was 3, now it's 5. And then yucca, 2 more from 2 to 4. Mushrooms, a little more unique. It was at 3 in tilled earth, but with fertilized earth it only goes up by 1, so it brings you up to that 4. So that's how it's a little bit unique. It only maxes out at 4, but in tilled earth it was 3. It does take more mushrooms to get seeds, so it seems really nice, but ultimately it doesn't perform as well as some of the other ones because it takes more mushrooms to create mushroom seeds. But that's your basics. So hopefully you got your snapshots. That's your basics for growing supplies. Obviously your fertilizer is your best bet for making the most out of your farms. So next we're going to talk about mushrooms real quick. So let's jump right into that. And we're going to quickly talk about mushrooms because they're one of the most unique plants in the game. As you just saw, they do require 2 mushrooms to create a mushroom seed. And when you plant them on the walls or the ceiling or in the ground that is not tilled or fertilized, you only get back what you put into it, which is 2 mushrooms. Once you have it in tilled earth, you'll get back 3. And if it's fertilized, you'll get back 4. But the next great thing about mushrooms is you could plant them underground or indoors right off the bat. You don't have to do anything special that you're going to learn today. You could grow them in complete darkness. Now you're thinking, well, is there any benefit to growing them in complete darkness? The answer is absolutely not. So first off, we planted some mushrooms on the ceiling here, which we know does not yield anything special. So here they are on the ceiling, fully grown, only returning 2 mushrooms. Now next is your tilled earth in complete darkness. Once again, these are completely dark boxes, but we have them in tilled earth. So once again, fully grown, complete darkness, only giving us 3 yield. Now finally, your fertilizer. So once again, you've guessed it, 4 mushrooms only. So there's no benefit to growing them in complete darkness, but you can grow them in complete darkness. So you could put your mushroom farm anywhere. They'll yield the most, obviously, if they're in tilled and fertilized earth. But you could put them indoors, underground, wherever you could have tilled or fertilized earth. You're going to benefit from growing mushrooms. So that's pretty much it. That's the mushrooms. Those are the basis on that. So we're going to jump back inside, and we're going to learn a little bit more about how to grow indoors. And ultimately, how do you grow underground? Because it's friggin' amazing. So let's jump right into it. All right, now we're going to talk about how do you grow these amazing crops indoors and underground. Well, first thing you need to know is the amount of space that they are going to take up. So just to give you a quick idea, we have these all growing along the ground on the wall here. So it'll give you an idea of how much space you need to grow them. Now, first you have your mushroom. Obviously, you need that 2 space to grow them. And when you go to grow them, that's that box. It's showing you how much space you need to plant it in the first place. You need to have that space to plant it. Same with trees. You need to have that 2 high space to plant them, but they will grow to their full height. They'll just destroy everything above them. But everything else truly needs that amount of space, and that's as tall as they're going to get. So as you can see, your mushrooms was 2, your yucca was 2. Your corn is unique because it needs 3 space. Now, it's kind of blocked, that sign is there, but it only needs that 3 space to grow. And I'll show you the corn again later, give you an idea of your building designs you're going to have to focus on. But you need 3 space for that one, 4 space you could put it. Everything else needs 2. Everything needs 2 space to grow. And you won't be able to build anywhere above them. So everything 2 high, corn 3 high. So your roof will be 4 high, and it'll be up to there. And that includes mushrooms, which is really weird. I wouldn't think that you need a lot of space for them, but they do. So now that we have an idea of how much space you need indoors, we could jump over your light requirements. Now, I already blocked off our light sources over there. And I have this little graph over here to kind of give us an idea of where our light sources need to come from. Now, your optimum light source is always going to be the ceiling. Remember that. Always the ceiling. As long as you have a light source coming from the ceiling, you'll have your optimum grow. And that is effective all the way down to bedrock. There is no limit. As long as you're growing directly beneath a light source, a ceiling light source with no interference, you're good. And you only need 1 spot to grow effectively. So as you can see, we went ahead and we punched a hole in our ceiling. So that's our ceiling spot. So right here I marked it, obviously, ceiling. And I marked it that you could grow it 8 spaces. Now what does that mean? That means directly underneath your hole, you could grow 1 and then 8 out. And that's what this graph is showing here, that we could grow 8 out. So we can grow all the way out to here, punching a hole from the ceiling. So let's go ahead and check that. So our ceiling is right there. So I could grow all the way out to here and then no more. So that's 8 spaces, 9 spaces I cannot. And that applies to the side. So count out 8 spaces. So this is my 8th spot. That would be 9, cannot grow. That would be 9, cannot grow. That would be 9, cannot grow. This would be my 7th spot right here, but I could grow 8 spaces out. So I could count to the sides. 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9 cannot grow. So you kind of get this circle effect. And I'll show you that real quick over here. So if we had our hole punched in the ceiling, that'd be right here would be the top of it. And all these frames that you see, those are all the spaces you would be able to grow just from that one hole in the ceiling. The one hole right here. That's all you need. And that could go all the way up to bedrock. You could have this farm all the way down at bedrock, and you're essentially growing underground. And that's amazing. Obviously, this is a strange shape. Missing a frame over there. But you'd grow out all the way in these frames. So that gives you, I marked it out with these rebar frames, that gives you a 7x7 perfect square. And obviously there's some nice rectangle shapes you can make out of that as well. But if you're looking for that perfect square, there's your rebar right there to kind of show you how much space that is. 7x7. So if you're building walls, your walls need to be 9x9 to encompass the 7x7 grow space. And like I said, there's some nice rectangle shapes you can get out of that as well, or you could just go with it. Go with this maximum grow space here. So that's the shape you're creating. So we're going to plug this up so it doesn't interfere with us, which it's too far, as you can see, to interfere anyways, but we'll plug that up. So after that, if you really wanted to, you could punch holes in your wall for your light source as well. But you do get diminishing returns then. So we'll go ahead and plug up this right here. We're not going to do it all because the graph right here pretty much spells it out. And if you want to screenshot that, there it is right now. And we'll say it really quick. If you punch a hole 8 high in the wall, you can't grow anything. 7 high, 1 space, 6 high, 2 spaces, 5 high, 3 spaces, 4 high, 4 spaces, 3 high, 5 spaces, 2 high, 6 spaces, 1 high, 5 spaces. So as far as you're punching holes in the wall, 2 high is optimum, but ceiling is always the most effective. So we'll go ahead and punch a hole here. So as my graph here shows, 4 high could grow out 4 spaces. So we'll go ahead, 4 high, punch that hole in the wall there, get out our blueberry. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 5th space cannot grow. 5th space cannot grow. Obviously we could grow all the way around as long as it's 4 total spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cannot. But we could grow there because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cannot, because it can only grow 4. So you could grow in that space, and so on and so forth. And that's what this was marking. Your ceiling obviously could grow the farthest. 2 high is your second farthest because you could grow out 6 spaces. 1 and 3 high in the wall, 5 spaces. 4 high, 4, and so on. So you get that screenshot there if that's a little more clear for distance for you. And remember, if it's above 7 high, you can't grow. It has to be in the ceiling. Ceiling though could be indefinite, as high as you want it. So it could be at the top of the mountain. If you punch a hole all the way down to your bedrock, you could grow maximum amount of growth space. Now, when you start growing indoors and underground, some of you might be inclined to get a little creative with it. I suggest just popping a hole in the ceiling as high up as you want and start growing your heart's content in whatever constraints you put it in. But some of you might want to get creative, so it's best to understand how different obstacles you put into the same room as your farm might influence your light source and where you could actually grow. If you're interested in that, though, go ahead and click our bonus video right up there. Yeah, right up there in the card. Go ahead, click that, and we'll go over some of those physics behind the lights and how different blocks different obstacles will influence that farm for you. Now that you have a great understanding of the different crops, the different soils, how to prepare the soil to farm, the light source you need for underground farming, and then the possible obstructions that could affect your light source, it's time for some practical tips for building an underground base. So first thing you do is you pop that hole in the ceiling that goes all the way up to the sky, and that's your light source for farming. But that creates a hazard inside your base. Or if it's outside, zombies will just start falling into your farm. We want something that's going to allow us to walk over it and still allow us to grow underground. So first thing we'll do is pop in a frame. That allows us to walk over it, but lets the light in for our farm. And pretty much anything that looks like it'll let light in will let light in. They'll allow you to grow. So we have our marker down the ground. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 9 we cannot grow. So this frame did not obstruct our growing potential in any way. But you have to understand that some objects will. So watch as I put in this glass pane. The light is going to change slightly. It got slightly darker, so we know we're in trouble already. So we see our marker on the ground, so we'll head down here. And then we can't grow. I just said that you could grow as long as you could see through it. Well, you can. It's a little glitch in the game. Don't let it scare you. So we're going to pick up our frame. We're going to pop it right back down, and we should be good to go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 you cannot grow. We lost 1 space of growing. This will still allow us that perfect 7 by 7 grow square, but we did lose quite a bit of grow space because we lost 1 all the way around because we put it in a glass space. We don't have time today to go through all the different objects, but just understand that it is going to affect your grow. So I like the trussel. Trussel will pop that down. It's sturdy. It's strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That one did not change our affected area at all. So we're going to go ahead and pop this building trussel out here. And we're going to go ahead and pop in our bulletproof glass, because that's one of the coolest new items in the game. Go ahead and pop that in. It did look like my light source changed. So once again, we'll go down here to test it. Pick up our frame. I'm just going to put back down as our marker. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It only goes out 6. So once again, it reduces it even further. Now that's the most obtrusive that it'll get, but you must understand different objects are going to affect your light source in different ways. Possibly in the future, we'll go ahead and outline that fully for you guys, but at this time, understand that you have to be aware that certain objects are not going to give you as much grow space for your farm. It's just how it is. So make sure you test that out. Your frames, you're good. Your bulletproof glass is 6. Your glass pane is 7. There's other objects in the game you can go ahead and test as well. We're not going to go ahead and test anymore. So make sure you check that out before you plan out your farm. So now we're going to jump into some other actual farms over here. Now that you have your light source planned out with a safe cover to it, we could go ahead and start planning the rest of your base layout. Now, if you're incorporating an indoor and underground farm, that changes a little bit. Traditionally, you have a floor, then 3 high, and then 4th block up is your ceiling. So you have 3 high for a living space. That's usually a comfortable amount of living space for moving around and things like that. But when you're growing a farm, it's just not going to work, because once you have your dirt in there, you can't have corn grow in there. If you're going to grow anything besides corn, go ahead, you are fine. But if you're going to grow corn, you need to make that 1 higher. That'll give you the amount of space that you need for your corn. But you are going to have a little bit bigger of a space. So if you're stacking one after the other, your base is ultimately going to be deeper or taller, depending on what direction you're building, because it's not the traditional height that you're used to building with, because you have to fit the ground and 3 high for the corn. If you're growing anything else, you're good to grow that no matter where you're at, as long as you have a light source coming from the ceiling. And that's pretty much it. So we'll jump inside and take a look at kind of some example of a farm for you. Now we're going to jump right into some practical farm building for you guys, but I saved a little bonus tip for those of you that are still interested in learning all you can about advanced farming techniques in 7 Days to Die. And that is, briefly we talked about how your different objects could affect your light source when you cover it up. But one of those objects you would never expect to allow light in is your hatch door. Now your hatch door will actually still allow the majority of your light in. It's only going to reduce your growing space from 8 to 7 blocks from the light source, which is pretty darn good, especially since the majority of the time it's not going to be your main light source anyways. But it's great to understand that it will give you a good amount of light to grow underground. Now in this base, I have my base here, and I have 2 light sources, and I use those metal trussels going all the way down into my farm. So we'll go ahead and take a look. So first, as we go down, here's my base. So this is where I'll put my crafting and things like that. And as we start to go underground, that's when we get to my farm. Now I have 2 light sources. I'm growing maximum amount of space. And as you can see, the corners are dark. I cannot grow in them because I can only grow 8 out. So there's my light source. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I cannot grow in this dead space here. Now, in between my 2 grow spaces, I also have a dead space because they're too far apart where they're not going to overlap enough. So I have this dead space. But as you can see over here, I went ahead and I'm able to grow in this space. That's because my hatch is acting as a third light source in my farm down here. Now it only does 7, so it's not going to reach these corners either. So it acts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As you can see, I could grow an additional space because of my hatch over there, but it will not provide any space any further because there is no light source that reaches those space. So this is kind of a look of utilizing your maximum light space. Obviously they overlap here in the middle a little bit with that dead space, but your hatch could take care of some of that for you. So we'll go down to the next level here, where once again I am completely underground at this point, and we'll go ahead and enter my little farm here. Now this is a 7x7 grow space. As you can see, it's all corn, so it's going to be your ground and then 3 high. And once again, my light source is being supplied by these trestles going all the way up to the surface, all the way through my other farm and through my base, all the way out the ceiling. And it continues to be 100% effective no matter how far I go down or how many blockers I have, because these metal trestles allow the full amount of light in. So I have a fully underground cornfield here, completely hidden, completely safe within my base underground. All because of one block light source going straight to the surface. So we'll go ahead and check out our next level. We have another level here. I mean, we could go all the way to bedrock if we wanted to. But my next level here is to give you an idea of how much you're going to be digging to get that amount of grow space. Now, once again, this is a 7x7 grow space, just like up above. And I went ahead and kind of showed some growing going on here. So I have my floor, and then I have my dirt. And once again, my trestle is set up, so if I wanted to continue going down. And once again, it goes all the way up to the surface. We could barely see the sky, but it still provides 100% effective light source for us. But this gives you an idea of how much you have to carve out just to have enough space for a cornfield. This is enough space for a cornfield, even though I have some blueberries going here. But it is quite a bit of space that you have to carve out. And this is just 7x7. You guys now have everything you need to build the ultimate underground farm in 7 Days to Die. Even your most advanced players do not know these advanced farming techniques. This has been your complete guide for farming in 7 Days to Die. Go ahead and smash that like button and let me know of any questions you might still have in the comments below. And go ahead and share this video with your friends because they need it. No one is farming like this in 7 Days to Die, and no one knows how to do farming to this extent underground. So go ahead and share this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other suggestions, let me know below. And until next time, keep surviving. And I'll catch you guys later.